Welcome to the Sports Card Lessons Podcast. I'm your host, Big Ken. Whether you're watching on YouTube or listening on a streaming service, please like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell. You'll be notified whenever I drop any new content. Welcome. Thanks for being here. How is everyone doing? Before we start today, I pride myself on answering every message that I get through IG or through YouTube and anything. And about a week before Culture Collision, or the week leading up to Culture Collision, there were a couple messages that came through that they require more thought into me responding to them. And somehow at Culture Collision, I deleted two messages that I wanted to respond to. So I don't remember who they're from. So if you sent me a message on IG in the last week or so and you did not get a response from me, please send that message again because I wanted to respond to it, but I don't know who to respond to. My apologies for that. Today on the show, if you're on YouTube, you see my man sitting next to me here in the screen next to me, bringing back friend of the show, who's now become a regular, my man Brad at Outlaws_sports_cards, all plural. Brad, how you doing, man?
I'm good. Nice weather down here in Jersey today. So, getting over being sick a little bit. Nice sunny day out today has definitely been helpful. So I'm happy today to have a little brightness in our life, right?
It's our first sunny day in like 10 or 15 days, right?
They were talking about that in the news or something, how we hadn't had such a run of, and it's like depressing. So I went out today, a little walk, got outside a little bit. Feels nice.
Yeah.
Get ready for next Sunday. Maybe whatever. What's next Sunday?
It could be next Sunday, man. My Chiefs. I know you Jet fans forget about there's one more game left in the season, but us Chiefs
to me, the only thing that really happens on Sunday is determining the final draft order. So, that's about the best I have out of it. Yeah. And I am pulling for Junior, who thankfully does not drink and drive like his father allegedly got caught doing today. So I heard about that. Mahomes Senior apparently is on got the little DUI today or last night or something. Boy. I just saw it earlier. Yeah, always something good to rattle the cages for the Chiefs before the game.
Yeah, that's
Papa Mahomes.
I think they expect it from him. I mean, they show videos of him, after the games, right?
People don't know. I mean, the younger folks don't know. I mean, he was a decent baseball player. He was a really decent baseball player.
Well, it must have been, for Junior to be growing up, being around, all the baseball fields and the professional athletes and things like that. So it's become something somewhat of his life, right? Growing up in that kind of, I mean, maybe not so much in the spotlight as a kid, but if his dad was in the spotlight and being around all these professional athletes, it's probably more comforting to him than most people who've never been that, coming out of college, right? And then they get drafted and all of a sudden things blow up. I mean, I'm sure it's a big transition for a lot of people.
Oh yeah. I mean, forgive me for being ignorant about it. I wonder what kind of baseball career he would have had or how much he played as a kid, or, I imagine he was probably one heck of a baseball player before he figured out he was going to play football. Right. I have to imagine.
You can be the quarterback, on a team, a professional team, I think. And, right. I don't know how good Tom Brady was either, but I know he was drafted, right, too. And
there was a few, Drew Henson. Drew Henson was a quarterback, right? Back in the day, he was a Yankee draft pick, played for Michigan. And there was a couple. Wasn't there Tuiasa Sopa? Wasn't he a baseball player too, maybe? And Brian Jordan played baseball, but they weren't quarterbacks. Tuiasa Sopa, I think, was, though. I think he played baseball too. Yeah. What do I
know? Bo Jackson, right? Wasn't he the first one that made that?
Not a quarterback, though, right?
No, but still played both sports. Yeah. So we're here to talk hobby stuff, right? Talk to me. State of the hobby. What do you think? What's going on out there? What do you see?
I mean, I had a great time this weekend tooling around the shows. I was at iPlay Friday and Saturday. I went to Fishtown. I mean, it's definitely tough. I mean, every time we talk, I think my my opinion has always changed a little bit, and not negative. I don't think my tone is negative. I think that the valuations continue to be more negative in my head. As much as I would like to think, if we go back to the first time we spoke, like we'll see some light at the end of the tunnel. Maybe, you know what? I'm not off of it. I just think it's going to take a lot longer than I had hoped. I guess maybe it's part hope. If we keep, and there's nothing wrong with it, but if cards are selling for $100 and people are really truly only paying 0.8, that's, what you're going to get on average most of the time, net on eBay, off eBay, whatever. The next valuation isn't going to be higher unless there's an event like a Jalen Brunson or maybe Mahomes. But things like that, what really are we seeing drive prices? It's just single events, performance events, and probably the way it should be back in the day, right? I mean, cards didn't just go up because they went up. Cards went up because someone had all-star appearances and MVPs and won things. So maybe we're going closer and closer and closer to that. And, but now we talked earlier, and I think there's just a realization out there that just maybe there's a lot of people listen and say, yeah, I can get 100% on comps. I mean, I don't know. If you're sitting on $10,000, I get it. If you're sitting on $500, I also get it. But I don't know if I would want to sit around and wait for the next person for that extra 5% anymore. It just doesn't.
Yeah, but what happens if 0.8 is where it's at? I mean, if you're going to go out and buy at 0.8 and sell at 0.8, I mean, it makes no sense, right? So
exactly
now,
it. That's exactly
so what point do you need to buy at to make sense for you to buy that to go move it at 0.8?
Well, you got to buy in bulk. You'll get better than 0.8 on bulk. A lot. It depends on what you're buying. You also probably have to go off the path a little bit. You can't buy things that everybody's buying because everyone's buying it. Why would I sell it to you? I have a $100 card, last trade, $100. Why you're going to offer me 75? Why would I give you 75? Because the next guy anybody will give you 80. So it's just harder. It goes back to the game we've always been talking about. Still buy raw and grade if you really want to make money, but that requires patience, more invested capital, risk. Not everyone can do, and you got to hustle. A lot of people talk. You got to talk. A $20 card has to become a 30, become a 50. It's now become literally like that type of industry right now. Which nothing wrong with that. It changes all the time. Every time we talk, there's a difference in how the hobby's reacting, but it seems more and more geared to Mark Cuban. If a stock's not paying dividend, it's no better than a trading card. And that's really what we're doing. We're just trading cards. And, and there's nothing wrong with it. I think it's a lot of fun. I'm having a heck of a fun time with it. No complaints here, but you got to be eyes wide open. I think to realizing that if you don't buy raw and you don't grade, or you aren't taking risks with players, it's very difficult out there. Or you got to catch dealers, that are willing to give you a break, want to move, or catch someone with a misprice. I mean, listen, I make mistakes every time I go out. If you come to my table, I'm guaranteeing you'll get something for me cheap because I'm mispriced. Every dealer makes a mistake. Every single show. We all miss something on a $20 card or a $30 card. It's cool.
Yeah. But I think more in those discount boxes, single boxes,
sure, of course,
things like that, because people aren't pawing through it. And I just talked on my last episode that I went shopping in my own discount box this week, because I was sending cards off for grading, and I said, let me go back and pull out the 2020 rookies and the 2021 rookies and see if I've got anything in there that would be worth sending out.
Sure.
And
why not? Or even an old autograph of a player of a decently clean card, PSA 9s. They're good. PSA 8s of old cards are good. It can work. PSA 7s can work of vintage. 5s of vintage. It's hard with the cost and the waiting. But SGC now presents itself as a really great option if you're playing in the vintage world. You're getting cards back in 2 weeks and $15 a card. But still, the vintage game is hard. It's a very hard game to play. And you got to know your stuff. You got to know your players. You got to know quality conditions. It's not supposed to be that easy, Ken.
Yeah.
If it was that easy. If it was that easy for everyone to make so much money in cards, we'd all be doing it. Really.
Well, that's what happened, right? It was easy. Anybody could jump in and if you knew somebody that said, yeah, do this, do that, do this, you're going to make money. And they did. But a lot of those people jumped back out of the hobby now, right? And I think people in the hobby have been sitting around waiting, like, oh, okay, it's going to get better. 6 months, it's going to be good. It's going to be better. It's going to jump up. It's going to do all these things, and it doesn't do it. And then more and more, you see people saying, "Yeah, I think I'm done. I'm going to take a break for a while. I'm going to sell off these cards or liquidate these cards and hold on to these, whatever they want to do, whatever their plan is." Um, because I'm seeing, I go to a lot of the same shows, and I'm seeing different dealer faces now. And I say, hey, where's so and so, or where's so, oh no, he hasn't set up, or he hasn't been here for a while. I don't know. Maybe he's taking a break, things like that. So I know the landscape of the dealers too, and the tables and these shows. A lot. I'm not saying all around. You're going to see this. I see the same faces all the time, but then I start seeing some new faces at some shows that I'm going to, and I'm saying, "Hey, I haven't seen this guy before," or things like that.
Yeah, I mean
But
that was definitely new for me to see some new faces for sure this weekend. A lot.
let me ask you. So now you walked the show Friday, you walked the show Saturday.
Mhm.
Just take me through. You know, Brad's day going or Brad's evening going through a show. Like,
Sure.
are you digging through the discount boxes? Are you going through the cases? I mean, what are you looking for now that makes sense for you to get and do something with?
So for me, the the bigger shows I try to avoid the boxes. Not that I don't like them. It's just they're very highly curated boxes at shows most of the time, and a lot of the guys are professionals. And like you said, they know what's in there at bigger shows, and there's a lot of people digging through boxes. So, yeah, you'll always find stuff, but I find my energy again. Like I've always said, I prefer the smaller shows. I do really well buying at smaller shows. I find you can have conversations with dealers. You can look at their inventory. You can talk about things. Uh, when you're at a busy show, and I play and Fishtown were both very, very busy. You had to talk, act, and move on. A little bit more time at I play, but at Fishtown, same thing. If you didn't see the card, talk about the card, you move on. You probably weren't getting back to that. It was really hard to maneuver, and that's a great thing. No complaints. Just a lot of people.
Yeah.
So I was looking more at like smalls, really in showcases. People that had raw things that potentially could be graded. Also knowing that a lot of these cards might have been examined for grading. I know that that's the game we're in too, but I looked for things and I was trying to be fair in my offers and things that I could maybe throw into a slab that would make sense based on the price point of the card. It was hard, very, very hard to find that
Yeah.
kind of stuff.
Yeah.
And it wasn't there. You felt very rushed, and I felt so many people. It was hard. I'd be going back to the smaller shows looking to buy for me, where I think again you can maybe get the time and the energy to spend. But walking through the shows, looking at raw stuff, vintage was there. I just pass on that stuff at these shows again because I look at it and think the pricing on it's going to be tough at these shows. You're going to get top dollar ask on raw vintage. Literally a raw card that they think is a 7 is going to be priced like a 7. That's hard to buy. And then the other stuff, off beaten path. I bought an Angel Reese auto, numbered auto. I bought a Jay-Z rookie Topps Finest refractor to 249. Not expensive stuff. I bought a couple other inexpensive autographs. New York Knicks Allen Houston Prism auto, things like that, but all smalls that I could potentially grade for $20 or more, potentially get a 10 and potentially make some money.
Yeah.
But I didn't look at big cards, Ken. It was too hard, too much pressure, and the prices were high.
Yeah. Yeah.
High.
Yeah, and I think too, here's the thing on the higher cards, the higher price cards, and you can correct me if I'm wrong. These repackers they're basically got like 1,000 and under, right? Maybe from
It
like
seems like
150 to like 7 to 850, like in that. I think they're in that area. So you're looking at cards that are 1,800, 2,500, three
not
thousand
moving.
dollars,
They're not
right?
moving.
Nobody's buying them. Nobody's buying those cards. And people that have them, and I know I have some of these cards, right? People that have them, like if I go up and I see a card, right, and I'm gonna say it's a $3,800 card, right? I'm gonna be looking for a discount because I know nobody else is buying it anyways, right? So it may be hostile from the beginning, right? Where the dealer's at for a price, and where maybe I may be looking to get that price. Now I'm on the other and I'm at that table. This is me at shows on the other end, and I have those same cards in my case that I would love to sell, right? But people are coming in so low in prices on those cards, and I guess they're figuring that sooner or later that I'm going to part with the cards. And this goes back to me talking about, like, and five or six of those cards are all Patrick Mahomes cards, right? So here we go, that I'm okay not to sell these cards because they're Patrick Mahomes cards, right? They're Chiefs cards. So if they don't sell, they don't sell. But then I end up like, last week I end up with this Lamar Jackson card, right? A nice rookie on card auto to 25, that type of thing, which I traded out of one and got into another. But that's a card I'm probably going to be sitting on for a long time. I mean, I don't think that card is going to move. I think it may move faster than the card I traded out of. I think this is card to be more liquid, right? But my options at this point with a card like that is trading down. Say, look, I know you like the card, show me $3,000 or $3,400 worth of product that I'll trade out of, and you can have the big
Right.
card and I'll take the small card. But that's really how it's happening. Not many people now. Maybe the bigger shows, because I haven't been to the Burbank and I haven't been to Dallas, right? But maybe these bigger shows that people are showing up to buy these cards. Maybe I need to get to those shows. But
Probably.
the shows that I'm going to, the smaller shows, these shows around here, I don't see any of those big cards moving.
No, I haven't moved. I've been doing the big shows, and I was at White Plains last month. We haven't spoken since then, and I had a really great show, but I didn't move a ton of bigger cards. I moved stuff that was just people were coming up and making fair offers, and I took it. And I looked at everything and saying, can you get $20 more? Can you get $50 more? But you know what? If I go home with the card, it's probably worth less. And that's my thought process now is, and again, it's not a negative. I'm just the way I feel about the market. It's like a car market. You buy a card and you're paying percent, and you walk off the showroom floor with it, and you go home, and that card is now traded on eBay for similar to what you just paid, and you just paid 83%.
Yeah.
So it's just a tough spot. So I think that now people have to look and say, like, if this is your living and this is your bread and butter and this is how you pay your bills, you have to define yourself one way. Me, I'm looking at it like taking profits or cutting losses on things is better than to continuously sit and wait for that price increase. And yeah, for every time we sell a card, we sold it too early and look what happened. But look at all this. I mean, I don't know about you, Ken. I'm sitting on probably more dead cards than the average human being. So I can speak from experience. For every time I win, I also have a box behind me that's probably losing 1% a day. And we all have those boxes. So
Yeah.
I'm not complaining. But you got to put yourself in a position. What's the purpose?
Yeah.
What's your purpose? My purpose with the cards was to sell a lot and create a business for myself and maybe some side income and do other things with money, which is happening. Just maybe a little faster than I was hoping to.
Yep. Yeah.
Got to speed it up a little bit.
It's funny. This past Friday, I had, probably the whole morning, I had a job booked that canceled, and I was sitting in my office, and I have a shelf over here, and it was a mess. Right. And I thought to myself, let me just organize this one shelf. Let me pull these boxes down. Let me go through them all. And then I realized at one point that I have more cards that I didn't had than the cards that I did know I had. I do know that I own, right? So now all of a sudden I have to start pulling these cards out and figuring what I'm doing. And one of those boxes was a box of, like you talked about, dead cards, right? The Zach Wilson, the Mac Jones, Trey Lance, these kinds of cards like that, Kyle Trask, right? And I realized that box was overflowing, that I had to get a bigger box to put those in to make it look neat, right? And I said to myself at some point, like, do I dress my wall? Do I make wallpaper in here with it? Just like the dead, like I almost feel like I want to put, because they're such great looking cards that have no value. I want to like put a border around the office or something of just cards that I'll never get any money for, or very few. But then I go to show, like I was at a show today, right? And somebody had well, it was in Rhode Island, right? And somebody had a couple Mac Jones cards at like $3,000, and I was looking, and I like maybe they did sell for that at one point, but I mean, not even close. But it, I don't know. It's just like you hope, you wish that there was somewhere like you could just take these cards and it would be meaningful, right? Like
I
it,
mean, you could
like
build
even
an
if it wasn't
outhouse.
the
I mean,
money at some point, but if it was meaningful, because what does a box of cards in my office on my shelf really do for me?
well, that's how I feel about a lot of this stuff. But at some point, you got to just probably take the box and send it off to some auction house, and you know, whatever they send back to you, be grateful you got it, and
Yeah, yeah,
keep it moving. I would take the box and I would pick your favorite auction house that'll take anything and ship it to them with your name on it and say, run it and have a good day and send me my money
yeah,
and get hope.
yeah,
Maybe you'll get lucky and someone will pay for something a little bit more than $1. You might, you never listen. You never know.
yeah,
You
yeah,
never know, Ken. But I've
yeah,
done that a few times too, taken boxes or rows of dead cards and slabs and sent them off and gotten rid of them. And I
yeah.
think one time was pretty funny. True stories. I actually sent the card out and then not realizing bought it back. Like, not sent it to the auction house and then like, oh look, this is cool, and I bought it. And then I come to the thing, I'm like, oh shit, this was my card. Like laughing, like, and I realized like, oh crap, how much money I lost on the card when I got
Yeah.
it back. I'm like, wow, like
I did that at one point. I dropped a bunch of clothes off at a consignment store, right? And then I had gone back, like weeks later to see, what had sold, and I'm shopping through, and I'm like, oh my god, this is like such a great
yeah,
shirt. It's my size and everything. I pull it off, and all of a sudden I look at the tag. I'm like, oh my god, that's my. Put it back on the
yeah,
thing, but
like
it's just
wow, this
interesting
is
that our
cool. This is
mind,
what that was yours. Yeah, it's
yeah, yeah,
you know,
yeah,
back in the day when we collected, you collect everything. I think I have like 7 cards. This Duke Snyder card. I don't even know what it is. It's like the magazine cover looking like card. A lot of guys had them, and they're not expensive, but every time I see them, they're always like $5 somewhere. I always buy them. I don't
yeah.
know why. But I might have like 19 of them, and even like send them off to auction. I like will buy them again. I don't know why. That card has got like a thing that follows me around. I bet you in my box I probably have 10 of them,
Yeah.
and they're probably worth less than I paid for all of them.
I did 2 shows this weekend. I did the Enfield show here in Connecticut. My guy Alex, Ideal Cards, it's his show. And I showed up, I talked about showing up late to this show, like getting there at like 11:30 or whatever. So I made an effort. I work Saturday mornings. I do some, with my business, I do some work Saturday mornings. I go to an office. So I got up early. I set the alarm. I got up early and I got up to Enfield, which is about, 45 minutes away from me to get to. The show opened at 9 and I got there like just before 10 o'clock. It was probably, 9:45, 9:50. And I know most of the dealers there. And as I'm walking around, people are, I'm like, how's the show? Oh, good. Look what I picked up. Look what I picked up. And all the dealers they're all holding up the cards that I wanted to buy. Right. And, you know, I'm not never going to end up getting them, right? But I did buy some cards, and the reason I'm going through this to share with you because it's interesting that we did not talk about this at all. But I picked up the Angel Reese card, right?
That's funny.
The Paige Becker card, right? Becker's
I
card.
try to buy her auto. I tried to buy an auto of hers at the show yesterday.
I bought the Big Kahuna. I bought that online. There's somebody in a Facebook group put up Paige Becker's the Big Kahuna auto, and I bought that. So I'll wait for that to show up. But I picked up a couple of these Simone Biles, right? The Olympics coming. I figure I'll pick those up. But we're talking about, I'm asking you what makes sense to buy at 0.8 or what do you need to buy it at? But my train of thought is if you start buying things that people aren't buying at the time, I mean, it's a risk,
Totally.
right? Like these types of cards here. But I mean, to
I
me,
just
I
sold a
mean,
pickleball card. Like literally today before I got on, I sold a pickleball card for $850 on eBay. No joke. Paid for it too, and I've done that a couple times. And that's lucky, yeah, because you get lucky. But Yeah, you got to go off. We've talked about this. You can't buy the things everyone's buying, and you got to
Yeah,
take a risk. And doesn't mean buy pickleball, doesn't mean buy Simone Biles, but it does mean that you got to try to not buy the same card that everyone else is trying to move at every single show. You're just trading,
yeah,
eggshells, man. You're just trading the
yeah.
same.
And I do the same thing. So I will try to walk as many shows as I set up. And I'm walking, I seem to be walking more shows that I'm setting up. And I say to myself as I'm walking by, what stopped me? What stopped me? What did I like about this person's case? And not even so much the cards anymore, which it is the cards, but sometimes just the way the case is set up or
Yeah.
how what they're doing that made it look so appealing for me to stop and look, just taking mental notes, like, because I think these are the important things now. It used to be that you could just show up, drop a case, throw the cards in, and just start talking to people. And like I think that we all have same cards everybody else has or similar cards. So what's going to determine, what's going to separate me from everybody else in this room? What's going to get people to come and say, "Oh, I want to look into the case." And I think having cards that nobody else has, like the Simone Biles or Angel Reese, or like just cards like that. I mean, it's okay to have the Mahomes and the Lamar Jacksons and stuff, but I think you need to have, like you just talked about, these pop culture cards and things. You need to,
Yeah.
like get people to
Now you
stop.
do. Now you
Yeah,
do. Or I've used, the other side of it. I've done the Babe Ruths in the case, and I've done the Mickey Mantles in the case, and I've done, the big Mahomes cards in the case, and Barry say anything. I try to use those cards for people to stop again, because I like you said, what sets us different is not just the card in the case, but then if you stop, they stop, then you have a conversation,
hmm,
and then you have to talk to them, see what they're interested in, what they're looking for, maybe make a deal. I don't
yeah,
know. But again, that's always the edge that you have to find in the business. Is sometimes it's the
yeah,
pricing is going to be the pricing just to get someone to stop and like want to buy your card, because they walk, they look, they see, they keep moving. I mean, we're all
yeah,
guilty of that. It's how we roll. But if someone takes the time to talk to you, that goes back to just that's not how to make money. That's how to make money 101. But in the scheme of things here, how do you stop and find someone's cases? I mean, that might be part of it too. I mean, how they express themselves to you when you walk by. They sitting there with their hand like this, they looking down. Hey, when I walk up, if you're engaging, I'll stop, maybe take an extra second just because you actually talked to me and said, hey.
hmm.
But that doesn't help you get better than point eight. It just helps somebody actually stop at your table.
It may get the offer. It may help you get an offer.
I still, end of the day, you still pay extra buck for someone you like versus someone you don't.
Yeah, yeah, and
I
that's
mean, who
true. I
likes
think I
pizza?
think as much as we all say, we don't, and we all got the best deal possible. I think there's something we like or something we think that could move the needle. Well, we're always willing to pay a little bit more for it.
Yeah, sure. For sure. I mean,
Yeah,
there's people I wouldn't sell my cards to for 110% of comps just because they're bad people, they're bad actors, they're, scumbags. So
yeah,
that person could walk up to me right now and offer me 110% cash of comps, the highest comp, and I would say no, but I would sell it to you for point 0.8 of the last comp because you want people to succeed and do well together. If you're a slime ball and you're a scumbag and you bad comp people and you take advantage of kids and other people and you sell bad things in your cases, I'm not going to sell you a card. I don't care. I mean, maybe some people will, but you know,
yeah. Yeah, I mean, there's those people who say as long as you're buying, they're selling, right?
yeah, to me,
So,
I don't care how much money you got or what kind of cards you got.
mm,
If you're, if you're not for the people, don't come to my table.
yeah.
Don't even talk to me. It's just not worth
Mm.
it.
I went to I drove up to Coventry, Rhode Island today. I'd never been to that show. I drove up to that show today. It was a Coventry high school. It was mostly vintage stuff. I mean, it was probably 90% vintage in there, and there was no high end stuff in there. It was mostly low end. I was thinking to myself, this is where all the PSA 8s and 9s ended up, right? Because
They're at every show.
so a guy had said to me, we were talking about Mahomes, and I said, yeah, I had the 2023, the downtown PSA 10. and I showed it to him. He's like, "Oh yeah, it's a nice card." Nobody was buying there. Nobody. I mean, they all had signs for buying, but they weren't buying the stuff that I had in my case. And somebody else walked in and said, "Oh, which car? Which one is that?" And I said, "Oh, it's the 23. It's a new one." He goes, "Oh, the pop count's got to be like 1 million on that." And I'm like, "No, it's only in the 40s. It's pretty low." Uh, he said, what was the last comp on it? And I said 1250. And he said, "What do you need to get for it?" And I said 1200. He goes, 1250? And I said, "Yeah." He said, "You'll take 12?" And I said, "Yeah." He goes, "Nah, I'd offer you 750, maybe 775." And I said, "Let me ask you, like, when you go to the store, when you go to look at a TV at Best Buy, do you tell them like, yeah, what's it worth? 2,000? I'll give you 1,000." He said, "Oh, they're gonna lose this week, and that card will be half price." And I'm like, "Come on,
Yeah, I mean,
man."
like, and what's funny too is like that's a terrible offer. I mean, it's just like a low
Yeah,
ball insult.
yeah.
I mean, this doesn't need to happen. I'd rather just say I'm
Like,
not
I don't know if
interested.
people are trying to be funny at that point, or they're just trying to be a clown, or you know what I'm saying. I
I
mean,
think
I have
people are
no
trying to find a
idea.
way to buy it for under point 0.8.
Yeah, yeah, but that's half price almost.
At
That's what
point 0.8, you
point
might have
six.
actually considered it. I mean, I don't know,
No,
point 0.8. I would
why would I
consider that.
consider it? Yeah.
I consider
Maybe
any
if it,
offer.
maybe if it was, a Jets player, I might have considered.
Jets players, we accept offers at 0.5. Ken,
Yeah. But you know what? The draft, and I knock your Jets, but your draft class, last year you had, with Wilson and Brees Hall, and I've got a bunch of these guys. I've got their autos and
you have
Solar
more than me. I have
Prism.
almost none of them.
I've sent them all off for grading because I do all these shows down here, and you know
You
what?
need them.
These guys are quality players that it's going to be worth having those cards in my case come next year, or maybe come the summer, or whatever. But there's a time. I say there's a time for every player. There's a time for every card to sell. There really is. And knowing where the market is, knowing what people are willing to spend on it, right? It determines what I'm willing to spend on the card, to grade the card, to figure out what the card could be worth, right? So if I'm buying, say, a Brees Hall or a Garrett Wilson, right, a rookie card, there's some PSA 10s out there. I could look now to see what they're selling for, right? And the raws to the PSA 10s, there wasn't that much difference in price, right? To do that. So will the value of that card, will the value of that 10 jump up next year, right? With their quarterback back playing, and you know,
Can't go really wrong
the
at that price point anyway, though. Really, what are we talking about? How much are those slabs on PSA 10 Brees Hall stuff, if anything? It's probably not expensive.
no, not at all. So to me, it's worth getting the cards, grading them, and see where it's going to go. This is a whole new thing with me with grading. Like, I've been grading all along, but this year I've really, like I've talked about, I have 180 cards out at PSA, right? And that's at their special at 14.99, with the valuation is 250 or less. Right. So it's not, it used to be before where those cards I would all sell raw, and I was sending the 5, 6, 8,000, $2,000 cards out to PSA. I'm not sending any of those cards now. Now it's all small card that I'm doing that I'm doing bulk of. And it's a whole new lane for me waiting. And let me tell you something with PSA. So the Wednesday before Culture Collision, which was 10, 12 days ago, whatever it was. I'm not going to calculate what it was. That's when PSA received. I sent 5 orders, right, and 2 of them were 10-day, or sorry, 20-day return, and then the rest of them were all 65 or 75 days at the 14.99. Do you know they opened those packages up already? The 2 cards that were 20 days, I've already got back in my possession, and the other 180 cards are already in assembly. They've already been graded. In less than a week, they've been graded and they're in assembly. And I probably will get those cards shipped back to me this week. The grades haven't come back yet, but it was just unbelievable. When I sent those, I'm like, oh, geez, I hope I get these back for April, right? And I think I may have these back, mid-February.
That's fantastic. I have an order I
Yeah.
have to get out soon too. PSA order. I'm just have some compiling to do, and then an SGC order I'm getting ready to do, and then a little non-sport order here getting ready to do with the stickers, holographic stuff. So
Yeah. Well, let's talk about grading a little bit. How do you determine what you're sending to SGC, what you're sending to PSA? I mean, what is your
uh, I won't send anything to BGS anymore.
no?
If anyone ever wants to ask me about that, I'm sure to talk about that privately. But SGC is vintage for me. Their customer service was nice. Their turnaround time's great. The values, if you look at the comps, they really don't value that much different than PSA on the better vintage stuff. Yeah, you could find some. You can always argue big differences and stuff. Yeah, but I was checking on some comps on cards yesterday and some raw stuff I was going to send in, and you're talking within $5 to $10 on $250 cards. So that's a good spot. PSA, I'll send anything to PSA. Higher end, vintage, modern. I just try not to do so much modern stuff with the grading. I just don't. The time the stuff gets back, sometimes I just feel like I'm just going to take it in the teeth, so I don't mess with it too much. But to me, it's really PSA for anything modern. Anything. PSA is good for almost anything, even thick cards these days. People would argue don't send thick cards to PSA because they'll clobber you on the grade and BGS is better. Yeah, well, if you go get a PSA 8 on something and you go get a BGS 9, the PSA 8 still sells better sometimes than the BGS 9. So, there's an argument for that. And BGS customer service is terrible. Their prices are awful. Their times are bad. I've had an awful experience with them recently, just very recently. Terrible, terrible experience with them. And they know it too. So, and they had no remorse, no nothing about it. They were just sorry. PSA's kind of similar.
Well, I just find they don't care. I mean, whatever they say, and I guess
I do say SGC does seem to care. I don't know if they care. They respond to emails. Their service representatives are at the shows. They're there. They're answering questions. They're taking time to comment with you. So that, again, we talked about that. Yeah. Why did I never did SGC? Well, I actually started to like them. I'm liking the way they handle the customers, the people. Yeah. So how do you not want to give them a shot? And then you sell their cards and they're moving. And the one or two people that walk up and say, I would buy that card if it wasn't an SGC slab. Okay, bye. Then we'll find someone else to sell it to you for PS. I don't care.
Yeah. I sent an order in. I sent an order into SGC because they were cards. They were for my own PC. And I wasn't really so concerned about the grade as I wanted them encapsulated. And other cards that I had were already graded with SGC. And I figured, well, at least it's going to match in the case, right? They're going to look. And yeah, I had a great experience with them. Sent it out. It was within a week. I had the cards back, and the grading was very fair. I thought it was actually better than I got better grades than I thought I was going to get on it. But being out at the tables, being trying to be a dealer out there with modern stuff and SGC, like people just don't want it. And as soon as they pick it up, right immediately they're thinking, is it worth me to buy this, crack it out, send it to PSA? And that's their calculation in their mind already, because they just feel, and for whatever reason it is, they just feel like nobody wants an SGC card graded with SGC, a modern one, right?
Yeah, I mean, it's just like those stupid Stanley Cups. I mean, it's just a fad. People change all the time. It was a year ago, I wouldn't send anything to SGC too, and I, guilty of that too. But then you realize, as the business models change and your business model changes, there's a place. BGS, I don't have a place for them. They have not found a place. I don't think a lot of people have a place for BGS.
Yeah,
sadly, because they used to be really, really strong in the hobby, but they just really, I don't get it.
Yeah, I thought they were going to. I mean, I think people really thought they were going to be bought out, or taken over.
Yeah, we hoped. Huh? We hoped. Yeah. I think we hoped. I would love to see, someone come and take them out. Someone that's going to do something with the brand and bring it back, because, I mean, we all own BGS slabs, and they are a big fixture in the hobby. And it does help to have a third company that is strong. And with all these waves of other grading companies, I know there's some good ones and people like them. You know what? You stop. For a while, a couple of years, you saw all these other grading companies in the cases. You don't see them anymore, do you? You see SGC, you see PSA, you see Beckett, the occasional slab of some other random company.
Yeah, like Tag.
But if you go to a big show and you go to see dealers that have been around the business a long time, that are not turds, that are just regular guys like us, you're not going to see those slabs, and they know better. And I'm not trying to knock it. If you like it, if you can make a buck doing it, go for it.
Yeah.
But if you want a long-term play in the hobby, I mean, I don't know if those are the ways to play.
Mm.
There's got to be some arbitrage there for people because it's low. People can find cards there that maybe are being moved and believers of the hobby of those companies and crack them out. I just don't. That's not for me.
Mm. Yeah.
Not for me. I do like the one company though, where you can like zap the thing, the clear. What's a tag? They look pretty cool.
Tag.
They
Yeah.
look very
Tag.
cool. I just
Yeah.
don't. I haven't done any. Ignorantly haven't done any research for valuations on it. It just looked really cool, but I just until I start seeing like
It's tough grading on those. Or you get a 10 back, you know that card's perfect.
I believe it, but until I start seeing when you start seeing dealers in the hobby are representing those cards all over the place, that's what it's going to take. And I sadly, I'm not trying to reinvent the wheel with grading. I'm just going
Mm.
to, you got to go with what works for now.
So when you show up and you're looking in somebody's case and you see like a CSG, right? That's what it is, like CSG or like another lower end grading company of a car, like that's priced like a PSA 10 or a BGS 9.5 or an SGC 10. In your mind, you immediately think, well, it wasn't graded properly. It's not a 10. The value should be lower. What is your thought on
When I see
these odd?
those third party, those other
Yeah,
party companies,
yeah,
I mean, I don't really think much about it when I see them. I usually just think about like just pass because I'm not interested in owning them. I'm not interested in cracking. So their prices, and I tell people all the time, prices are dumb. You can put any price you want on a card. You're still going to comp it, right? So like, I just look and see them and I just pass because I always
yeah,
question like, why would somebody send that card in for that? Like, why would you send like a optic hollow Patrick Mahomes to one of these grading companies? I
yeah,
just would trying to understand why
yeah.
you
Or
would.
even the HGA,
Yeah,
right?
why?
Even
Like, why would you do that? I don't know. I'm not. Again, someone can tell me. I'd love to. Anyone at a show that sees educate me. I'd love to understand the thought process as to why. Not to knock it, just to understand. I don't know why somebody would do that.
I think what happens too, because I know I go my daughter lives in North Carolina in Apex, and I go to Cardiac Cards. It's the local store. It's like 10 minutes away. And most of their cards in there are HGA, and they sub out to HGA. I mean, I think that it's like a big deal there for them that people in, and why I'm in there. The store is always busy. People are bringing cards in. They're giving them off
Yeah.
to send off to HGA. So it may have a lot to do with you know who your
Where
local LCS is, who's grading them for you, who you're trusting, who's who you're listening to where you should be sending them. And a lot of people, if you're just getting this card for yourself, then it doesn't matter if it's
agreed.
PSA, HGA, whatever. Like I told you, like I have a number of, and I'm building up another order now for SGC because I just have a number of, PC cards that I'm never going to move that I'd rather have them encapsulated, than
Sure,
leave them in a one touch or just leave them raw on the
makes
shelf.
sense.
Yeah,
Makes sense. It really
yeah,
does.
yeah.
Well, I'm a big grader. I love grading cards. I mean,
Mhm.
I'm a little shy right now. I usually have like anywhere from 50 to 100 cards out in processing, but right now I don't. I have maybe like a small SGC order, like 25 cards, and maybe another 10 or 15 at PSA, just because I got so busy
Yeah.
with the shows and stuff. And you can't grade everything. And the amount of
Mhm.
cards as I have, man, you got to sell some cards before you can grade some cards because the grading
It
bills are
costs
not.
money to grade, yeah, especially
Yeah,
when you're
well,
sending in a couple hundred of them, it costs money.
yeah. So I usually send 50 to 100 at a clip, and if you're sending in some of the cards, I send in bulk, but most of them I send in a little faster. It's a couple $1,000, and it's you got to invest the money into the cards to do it, and it's not easy every month to do it. So I kind of stopped. I didn't do one for January or for February, but I do have a really nice order that's getting prepped for PSA back here now. It's going to probably be like 60, 70 cards, and I'm really excited for it because there's some really cool stuff, like some high-end refractors and stuff that I picked up along the way.
Mhm.
Time to go, time to get them out.
Now, do you examine your own cards for grading, or do you just buy them and let
A
somebody
lot,
else
yeah.
look
I
at them?
examine. No, I examine a lot of my own cards before I send them out. Sometimes based on the rarity and the scarcity, I don't care. Like I'll look at the card and think if it's got a shot, even for a 7 or an 8. Sometimes cards just need to be slabbed, and I don't mind paying the cost of it, especially like you're not going to sell the card raw anyway. No one's going to buy the card for $50 raw, but they would buy it for 65 or 85 in a slab, just a little different. So sometimes the card becomes more marketable, and rare older cards like refractors and stuff, if they're not going to 10, some of them are tough, but like, things that have at a 10 or 25 or 50, if you can afford to do it and you can get an 8 on an older card, not new stuff, older cards, stuff from like the 80s and the 90s. If you can hit grades on that stuff, it's worth it. People will rebuy it. Sometimes the margins.
Do you look at certain cards? Do you come across certain cards and say, well, this has probably already been graded and somebody probably cracked it out and it's, it was better off to sell it raw than in.
That's a great question. I'm always paranoid about that, Ken. I always believe that every card I buy from a professional dealer has been graded before, especially if it's like a bigger modern card. So when you see like big RPAs of big players and that to me, like, Mahomes, raw, hollows, things like that, you're always going to look and say, why? Like, why would you just not grade it? And that's what my questions become. So I do stay away from that stuff. To me, it always becomes the source. Who's selling you the cards? Is it coming from another dealer? Is it coming from a showcase? Is it some random off the street? Or are you getting it from some person who calls you over to their house who has a collection for the last 3 years? Doesn't mean you're getting clean cards, but it does mean that you maybe have something that hasn't been looked at. That is hard to do.
Yeah.
Finding people that have not handled these cards before is hard.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's true. You go to these shows and you see these dealers set up. So I'm in there looking for raw cards, obviously modern cards. And then I'll see like a sign. I'll be like, oh, we subbed through PSA or whatever. Come sub your cards with us. Then I look in their case and I'll see like a couple CJ Stroud cards sitting in the case raw. And I just think to myself, if those were gradable, they wouldn't be in that case. They would have sent them off.
People ask me all the time because I grade a lot of cards. Everyone says to me, Brad, if you didn't grade it, why is it for sale? Truth be told is I just don't. Some things it depends on the cost, the price point of the card. And honestly, like you can't grade everything. And if you see what I'm grading, I'm not going to grade like 25-year-old autos of guys from cards that are hard to grade. It just doesn't make sense. I grade things that are harder, rarer to find, or things that I think I can hit a good grade on. But like a lot of stuff, if you send a Don Mattingly auto in and you put it in a slab, no one's going to buy it. Like some of that stuff, like the 25-year-old autos, right, from those older products.
Yeah.
No one wants it, but they want it raw. So if you slab that card, even though you can get a 10, now you almost priced yourself out of the card because now you put that $80 Mattingly card in a 10, you pop one, now you're asking $300, $250 for it. No one's buying it, but they'll give you 90 for the card raw all day. So it's just have to be smart. And I look around the room like, do you really want to grade Jumbo Giannis third-year patches from National Trend? Maybe, but, they become harder to move when they're in an 8.5 slab.
Yeah.
So that's how I'm looking at it. Like I do
the same. And that's really trade bait for somebody else, right? I mean, like that Giannis car, that just turns into trade bait for somebody else. They don't want it in a slab. They'd rather have it in that one touch. And then
I make so many mistakes with this all the time. And just because I say it doesn't mean I don't make the same error. But when I buy these cards, I look at the same thing. If I'm going to grade it, it doesn't hit. Who wants it? Or if I hit the grade, who wants it? Sometimes you look at stuff and you go, man, you send this stuff in. That's great. I'm glad I hit a 10 on that. No one's buying it now because now it's a $3,000 card. It would have been better if it hit a 9 because someone would want it at $1,250. Now nobody wants it at $3,000. And you almost like we're at, and there's nothing wrong with that. Yeah.
I got
and
it's, curse.
I know people are going to listen and go, yeah, poor us getting 10. It's not, if you think about it though, if you buy a card for $50 or $100 and you hit a 9 and you can sell for $250 or you hit a 10 for $500, who's buying the 10? Or now you're going to send that 10 for 0.8 and you're not going to want to sell it for $400.
Yeah.
Right. So like, it's just a funny, I think it's hysterical. These conversations, we could talk about this for days, but I will say though, you could start to meet in the hobby, who's legit, who's a hustler, like who really wants to be, and who's trying to just, clip people for any little penny they can. Because there's some people out there they're giving you good deals to keep the money flowing. And there's a lot of guys out there man, they chop their own mother's head off to make a buck on you, and it's terrible. And those guys are going to be out real soon. And we're finding them more and more when you start to see the bottoms where people are paying, and Slimers are still running around trying to offer you 50% off of 3 year ago old comps. I mean,
Yeah. And I mean, you go to the shows and you look in the cases, the dealers that are turning things over. And that to me is a
big
a
sign.
great barometer of what I'm looking. So when I show up to a show that I've been to the show, I know the show, and I know some of the dealers, and I come up and I saw you 2 or 3 weeks ago and I looked in your case, and now 3 weeks later I'm looking in, I don't see anything that I saw 3 weeks ago. Right? I see all new inventory.
We talk about that, for all the people out there that are setting up as dealers or occasionally, know that, right? Like if you're going to set up as a dealer, I only do once a month, maybe twice a month, weekends. I try to not do it all the time. But even I'm very, very conscious of making sure that my showcases have a lot of turnover and change, even if I have to take cards and not bring them and put less expensive cards. If people walk up to your case, they see the same thing every show, they're going to just keep on walking by you. And that's why I've refused to do shows every weekend, because you can't constantly, have turnover every weekend. That's going to be different. And to make the masses happy, I'd rather just do it once or twice a month, have my chance to go through old inventory, bring some out, reprice some stuff, get some new stuff in, and keep my people coming back. Man, if I show up to the same show with the same boxes, with the same stuff in my cases, you know what's going to happen. Hey, good to see you. Nice to talk to you.
Walk right by.
Keep walking. And we do this too, because I could go to a show, walk right by the same 50 dealers.
Yep. I do it. I do it all the time. I go to these local shows, and there's certain people that have, I mean, the vintage guys, obviously, because I just don't think that stuff moves as fast. But there's just certain dealers that have the same cards in there. And I always say, hey, anything new, right? Because I'm looking, I don't see anything new. But if you're going to point it out to me if you've got something new in the case
Sure.
that I may want to look at, but I'm not going to stand here I'll stand here and talk to you. But
my boxes are always 40 to 50% minimum new. I take stuff out and fill it back in, but I do that when it sells a lot. It's easy. Like last show, White Plains, I sold so much. My boxes will be 50% new just because people bought so much. My showcases, I'll go through the cards and half the cards won't make it. And then some cards that I didn't bring last time will come back, and then some new stuff comes. And then people don't see the same stuff. There's always a few cards I bring every show. Then they sell.
Do you consign out? Do you get to a point where these cards and you're like, all right, I can't do anything else with these cards, send them off to somewhere, or they just, what do you end up doing with those cards?
Interesting. I just did that for the first time. For a couple friends of ours in the hobby, they are around the country more than me. Every weekend traveling to shows. So like, I would call it consignment. Sure. We'd call it like friends helping friends. Took a couple of my bigger cards and they're shopping them around the country for me as they go to these bigger shows. And I trust them. They're obviously, we're not talking about $500. We're talking about thousands of dollars in cards. These are relationships with people I trust. So don't do this at home with anybody, folks. But I don't want to travel around the country, go to shows every weekend. And there's some people who have obviously bigger Instagram or bigger, TikTok pages, whatever, and can put cards on and get reactions that I can't get. So I don't mind. Sometimes when you have big cards that you're into for money, you can't hold out waiting for that 30%. You got to sometimes make less. So I have a few cards like that now. I would consign if I had to, but I don't know if I would need to at this point. I think that there's enough, people out there that will pay you close to what you need on most cards. I think if you're just willing to work. Go to a show and shop. I mean, the repackers are great. I love these guys. They probably don't listen, so it's hard to even say their names. Like Ethan, Dan, they're great kids. Daniel, they're good guys out there. They're buying Austin, right? They're out there buying cards from people. You don't like their prices, don't buy it. Don't sell it to them. But if you have stuff you're thinking about moving, you got to show it to them if you're sitting on it, because you're just going to keep waiting. Let them put it in circulation. Get your money moving and buy some other cards.
Yeah.
Sometimes 0.8 is in a death sentence. Sometimes 0.8 is freedom. 0.7 is freedom. Sometimes 0.6 is freedom.
Yeah.
If you took every $100 card you turned down $90 for, and then you went and sold it for less than 90 later, count those in your career, all of us. I bet you it adds up to be a lot more money than we would have made if we had sold it the first time we got a decent
Sure.
offer. But we
Yeah.
all make that mistake. I hold out too long for stuff too. So
Yeah. Well, we try to learn. Those are the mistakes which we keep trying to learn from. Right.
yeah, I just those mistakes are great mistakes as long as you don't
Mm.
do them every single weekend.
Yeah. Yeah. So let me ask you. I know you don't travel, like you don't go out overnight. I mean, all the shows you do are within driving distance. But do you still, so I know there's no expenses really for hotels and things like that, but do you still calculate your costs and gas and food and things like that into your
Mileage,
cards?
yeah,
Yeah.
mileage, a little bit gas cost, stuff like that. More grading costs, but for me, I look at grading every card in my head. I put it like $25 a card, even if it's bulk rate. Nothing. It's super high end stuff. I always factor like every card I buy raw is $25. You got to ship it, insure it, blah blah blah, and that goes in there too. But you should keep keeping track of that stuff, people. Obviously, if you're driving around to shows every weekend and traveling to shows, or you're going to spend a hotel room in Dallas or Burbank and fly there. I mean, you got to think about that. It's great
Hmm.
if you can make that kind of money, but man, I know if I went to Burbank, and I want to go to Burbank really bad, I really think that'll be a great fun time. But I want to go if I'm going to go for vacation and then spend a day or two at the show, because I honestly can't in my head put together how it would cost me thousands of dollars for airfare and hotel, how you could
Yeah.
actually make money. I just don't see it.
Yeah.
I don't,
Yeah.
me personally, can't
Because
do it.
you would literally have to start out with, $2,000, right? Say it costs 1,500 or 2,000, whatever it costs. I mean, you have to start out and you need to start making that up front to break even.
Right,
And I'm
right, right,
not talking about selling $2,000 worth of cards. I'm talking about profit. I mean,
right.
it,
That's hard. And you're
it,
talking, 30%, 20% margins. You got to sell 10 grand just right. I mean, think about it.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah, it's hard.
yeah,
It's hard. And I'm gonna be 50 years old. I'm not sharing rooms with people. I'm not. I would travel in a car with someone across country. I'm not sharing hotel rooms with people. I'm not doing that. I not that it's not. I wouldn't want to go budget, of course, when you're running a business, but I'm past those days, man, where like someone gets the couch and someone's getting the bed. I'm not doing that. So I'm not saving $100 a night to sleep on the floor, and I don't want to hear you snore. You know,
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Joe, the other day, Joe was busting me to go to Canada. Oh, no, go to Nashville. Drive to Nashville. Drive. Bro, that's great. I'm not bunking with you guys. That's cool. That's great. You go. I'll stay
Mm.
home. Send pictures.
Yeah, yeah. I tried to get these guys together to do like an Airbnb house out in Cleveland for the
You're crazy.
National. Finally, I just said, you know what? All right, it's too much. I'm going. I feel like I'm the only one going for the whole week. Like everybody wants to come in on Thursday to Saturday and Friday to Sunday and all that.
Cost
And I
money,
said,
Ken.
well,
Cost money.
yeah. I said, forget it. I ended
I'm
up
not even
getting.
going. I want to go. I like the experience. I think the national stuff is great. I really love it. Just
Mhm.
the pace of it. I don't know if I need it. I feel like, again, like I still just, again, if I was going for vacation to sit and hang out with a bunch of people, yeah. But most people want to buy and sell cards all weekend. They're not hanging out. I mean, I think
Yeah.
I would want to go for the fun. I'd have more fun, going this weekend and bumping into people in Philly and that I play, seeing Rob and those guys there and Philly,
Mhm.
seeing the cardboard
Where's
guys.
I play? Where's that show?
Freehold, New Jersey. There used to be a 3-day show. It was Friday and Saturday this year. They do a real nice job over there. I mean, it's a big, big room. There could be so many more dealers. I don't know why they don't put more in. I don't know why they don't.
Yeah.
But the room is full. A big room. It's full. I think last year they had some autographed people there. Not this time, I don't think. But
Mhm.
I had never been to Fishtown before, and that was
That's at the
fun.
casino, right?
Yeah, it was fun
Yeah.
because like when I came in, the dude wouldn't let me walk into the casino. I'm like, I'm 49 years old. He's like, you got to take the elevator. I'm like, dude, I want to go in the casino. He wouldn't let me. But then I went up the elevator and then came right back down and walked to the casino. It's like being weird. And then the show was great though. Room was great, tight, tight. A lot of people, man.
Yeah.
And never been to that show before. Didn't even realize how many Eagles, Phillies, and other types of cards, which was cool because I picked up a couple Mike Schmidt autos because by us when you see them they usually are gone in 2 seconds.
Yeah.
And so I picked up a couple, even paid decent for them because you don't see them. I like them. Good
Imagine
trade
those
extended.
cards like
Huh?
Imagine those cards like that you'd get at Burbank.
Yeah,
Nobody
I
would be looking
imagine.
for those out there.
Yeah, but I believe at Burbank I would imagine that stuff gets scooped up really, 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 really fast.
Yeah. So what do you what's your schedule now? What shows are you going to be doing? Where are
Oh
we going to
boy,
find you?
I'm doing the small Friday Night Old Bridge show on the 16th. I love that show. I love hanging out there. The following weekend, I'll be Saturday in Manahawkin, New Jersey. Actually, I say this all the time. It's my second or third time setting up. It's a small show with the VFW. They serve food. Howard Johnson from the Mets is signing autographs from the '86 Mets. So
Hmm.
again, there'll be 150 people showing up. There'll be 30
When
people
is this? Next weekend or the weekend after?
the following weekend, not the 16th. I think it's the 23rd or the 24th. It's a Saturday.
Okay.
Howard Johnson's going to be there. You probably have 30, 40 tables in the room. There'll be 150, 200 people that will show up, and they kids and they buy. Atmosphere is great. You know, you're gonna sell a Mickey Mantle rookie there. I doubt it, but don't be surprised if one walked in the room for sale. I've seen some stuff come 2 times I was there. Some of the cards that walked in and out of the room were insanity. And then after that's Cardboard Carnival, which is up in Montville. Those guys are great. John and Joe. They do a real nice job with that show. They got a whole crew.
Hmm. Nice.
You don't do that show, do you?
No, I haven't been involved in any of those, because for me it's staying overnight. I mean, for me to drive like
Right.
the Westchester, the um, Hofstra show, the Long Island show, I drive back at night. I'll go do
Right.
the show on a Saturday, then I'll drive home. It's an hour and a half home, and then I'm up in the morning to drive back an hour and a half. Once I'm beyond that, if I get down there, then it's a hotel room. It's a
Right.
lot of other things. So.
You're not doing White Plains in March? You're not sure yet?
I don't know. I haven't talked to John yet. I'll have to talk to
Yeah.
John and
White
see
Plains. I'm
when.
definitely doing White Plains in March. And there's another show, of Old Bridge show on Saturday. It's a different show. I'm doing that one. It's a small one. I like that one too. And then,
The Hofstra show should be coming up too, right?
yeah, it's coming up soon, I think. But I know March is the White Plains again. And then
Yeah.
I think April, May will be a normal couple months for me. And then I'm going to no June, no July. Most of June I won't. Probably probably end of May. That's it. Beginning of May. That's it for me. Once like Memorial Day hits, I will not do any shows. And then August, I'll go back to White Plains. That'll be the next time you'll see me set up. You'll see me at shows on a weekend if I'm bored. But
Yep.
for the most part, May, June, July, August, I'll be not out and about, and then back at White Plains, and then finish up the year again. But I love the White Plains shows. Are great, man. I just have such a good time there. I sold a lot of stuff there last time, man.
Yeah. I have Mohegan Sun at the end of this month, the end of February, last weekend in February, and then the following weekend is Foxwoods. Card
Oh,
Vault's
fun.
doing the Foxwoods show. So I'm doing the two casinos back to back. The end
How
of
is that show?
February. You know what? The Mohegan show is a good show. I've been to this. I've done this show like 3 or 4 times. There's generally a good draw for it. There's I think the room is pretty much split between sports and Pokemon. There's a lot of Pokemon stuff at that show. And the Card Vault show. Now I've done the Card Vault. I've done Fenway Park last year. I did Gillette Stadium this year with them. Last year they did this Foxwood show, which was unbelievable. Like everybody I knew did that, but I had booked to go to my daughter's. I had plane fare to go to my daughter's that weekend, and that show popped up. I didn't get to do it, and I was so sorry I missed that show because it was like everybody basically got bought out, sold out. They just said what an unbelievable show that was. So looking forward, this will be my first Fox, show at doing at Foxwood. So I'm kind of looking forward to that. April, I'm sitting on I don't have a lot of hockey cards, but I have a lot of high-end hockey cards. So I may consider running up to Toronto Expo in April
Interesting.
to
Yeah.
try like I did last year and move the hockey.
I just sold a lot of hockey this weekend. I was moving a bunch of McDavid cards because Oilers are on fire, and he's been playing really well. So for me, I looked at it like, you know what? It's time to cash because I have a lot of McDavid cards, a lot of McDavid. I mean, so you can't.
I've heard of worse problems.
Yeah, right. But the problem is that the prices on him have been very, very soft recently. So you get a little spike, turn up. He's been playing great. so I cashed out of some of them. I've had them for a while, so I cashed out of a bunch, so which is good.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm still holding a lot though. That's my guy right there. I would like to do the Foxwood show one day. I think that for me, it would always have to be timing around like, could I come? And because my wife is not coming to a card show, that's 100% never going to happen. But if I was going to Foxwoods and that happened to be there, I could set up and whatever. I could bring friends and family to do other things around the clock. That would be okay. But
yeah.
I'm not going to a hotel room and staying anywhere for card shows. It's not a vacation oriented thing.
Yeah. I kind of really like the Mohegan show because before I jumped back into cards, I frequented the Mohegan. So I still have a lot of points that the last few shows, I just used my points to get a room for the night. So it's kind of fun. You go set up, and then you go hit Michael Jordan's for a nice dinner, like stuff. Yeah.
Food's
But
terrible.
No, it was pretty good when I was there.
I went there years ago. The food was terrible.
But this particular weekend the show is on, they have I think it's Maniscalco or somebody like five nights in a row. And
you should go see him. Yeah, that would be good.
The hotel rooms were like $700 a night. So I'm like, yeah, no, I'll drive back and forth for that. I'm not gonna, I'm only like 55 minutes away. So I'm okay to drive back and forth for that one.
Yeah. I just don't, those hotel White Plains is far for me. It's almost like an hour 45 each way, but I mentally prepare to do it and I get myself geared up and I went to work on Monday. No problem. I just, it's mind over matter with that stuff. So
yeah. All right, kid, we're over an hour. Probably going to end it up here. I appreciate you coming back on. Appreciate you talking.
Thanks for having me again, as always.
Bringing your thoughts and hopefully I'll talk to John. Hopefully maybe I'll see you in March at probably either way. I'll ride do you know the date of the White Plains?
I'll tell you right now.
It's probably the 15th and 16th.
Manahawkin is the 24th, by the way. Cardboard Carnival in Montville is the 25th of February. March 2nd is Old Bridge again. And then where are we going here? 22, 23, 24 for White Plains.
Oh, it's 3 days?
Yeah, and I've already seen them posting for autograph signers. They got some good ones again.
Yeah.
They do such a good show. Jimmy does a really great job with that show.
Yeah.
I love it. I mean, Hofstra's a great show. I just
the upstairs again, or are they going to open up the downstairs?
I don't know. I think it's going to be I only think the downstairs is open for August.
Yeah. I don't know why. I don't know why they wouldn't. That's makes the show bigger and more attractive, right?
I don't know. I am the one thing I will never ever try to do at this point is get in the mind of a show promoter because I have zero experience with that. There's got to be a reason that they know they're not gonna do that. I don't know.
Yeah. All right.
All right, kid.
Thanks for coming on. We will. I'll definitely see you soon. Yeah. I want to thank everyone for tuning in. And if you like what you hear, please definitely subscribe. And most importantly, tell a friend and spread the word. And until next time, take care of yourselves and everyone around you. Take care, Brad.